Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, so 5.2 is going over adding and subtracting rational expressions. So 5.1 was where we were multiplying or dividing them and kind of simplifying it, whereas this time we're adding and subtracting it. So the important thing when you are adding and subtracting fractions is that you need the denominator, the bottom number, to be the same on both. Otherwise, you can't add or subtract it. If they're the same, then all you do is you either add or subtract just the top numbers, 2, 3, however many fractions you're doing. So in this case, we just have 2 fractions. So I'll just go 1 plus 1, which equals 2. And then they just simplify it to 1/3. So that's it. It's just the most important thing is making sure those bottom numbers are the same. And if they're not the same, we need to multiply them in some aspect so we get the same denominator. So these first few examples, they give us the same denominator. So example 1 right here, we have x over 6 plus 7x divided by 6. So my denominators are the same right here. So all I need to do is I just keep the denominator, it's going to be the same. And then I just add x plus 7x. So that's going to give me 8x divided by 6. Now I can reduce this because I know that 2 goes into 8 and 2 goes into 6. So if I just divide them both by 2, and maybe a better way to rewrite this would be 2 times 4 times x divided by 2 times 3. So then you can see that I can cancel out those 2's. So then I'm just left with 4x divided by 3. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to skip over here to example 2. So my first thing, I see that I'm subtracting and I need to make sure the denominators, the bottom, match. So on this one I have 5b cubed and this one I have 5b cubed. So they're the same, which is great. So now I'm just going to subtract them. That denominator just stays the same, 5b cubed. And now the top I just do a minus a plus 2. So now a minus a, it's just 0. So then I'm just left with 2 on the top and 5b cubed on bottom. And that's going to be as reduced as it can get. Just like that. Okay, I'll let you look over example 3 kind of on your own, and I'll go over example 4. So first thing, see if my denominator is the same. X plus 3, x plus 3. So it is. So now the bottom just stays the same. And I just subtract the top. So x squared minus 9. So this is where factoring comes in, this x squared minus 9. This is the difference in squares. If you can't remember, just plug it in the calculator on your computer. So x squared minus 9 is x plus 3 and x minus 3. And so then that's all divided by x plus 3. So now I see that I've got an x plus 3 on bottom and x plus 3 on top. So I can cancel those out. So I'm just left with x minus 3, which is our answer. So what you're always going to do when you're subtracting or adding, multiplying, dividing fractions, whatever it is you'll always either add, subtract, or multiply and divide to get them into one fraction. And then from there, you're going to see if you can simplify it, if you have any common things on top and bottom where you can reduce the fraction. Sometimes you will, as we saw in like this example up here, we didn't. So it just depends. Also, I'm just realizing I made a mistake up here. So it's A subtracted all of this stuff. So it's A minus A, which is 0, and then sorry, not A minus 2, but what it is, let me rewrite this, sorry. So this, what it means is A minus A, and then I have to distribute this negative here. So minus 2 over B cubed. So I just have to make sure that this negative goes to the A and to the A and to the 2. So let me actually rewrite it like this. So minus A minus 2 over 5B cubed. So the same thing, A minus A is still 0, but now I have a negative 2 over 5B cubed on the bottom. Sorry about that. So yes. Okay, so now they're going into if the denominators aren't the same. So before they actually add and subtract fractions, what they're asking you to do is find the LCD, which is the least common denominator of each fraction. So right here, what they're doing is for 6 minus 2w. So in this case, we're just looking LCD. So we're just looking at the denominator. I'm not even worrying about the top in this case. So I look at 6 minus 2w. I can see that I can take a 2 out, or a negative 2, because here, let me rewrite this. So if I look at 6 minus 2w, they're going to rewrite it so the w is in front. So they're just going to write it as negative 2w plus 6. So then I look at that and I see that I can take a negative 2 out so that I can keep this w positive. So I'm left with w minus 3. Then in this case, the w's are in front, so I'm just going to leave it. I can see that I can take a 3 out. So that's what they do right here. So I'm left with w minus 3. So I see, let me try this. So I see that these two, what they have in common is w minus 3. So I see that they have w minus 3 and w minus 3 in common. So now what I got to do is the difference is that this one has a 3 in front and this one has a negative 2. So I know for sure both of the least common denominator is going to be w minus 3. And now what I'm going to do is these two things that they don't have in common, I'm going to multiply together. So negative 2 times 3. So my least common denominator will be negative 6 w minus 3. This might be a little complicated, but hopefully this will make sense. I'll do a different example in a little bit. But what I'm looking at is I kind of simplified the denominators out, found what they had in common. So I know that they're both going to have that. And then whatever they don't have in common, I'm just going to times together, more or less. So let's do another example. So example 6. So 20a squared b cubed. And I've got 15a b to the 4th. Okay, so this one is a little trickier. I'm going to rewrite these factored out. So I'm going to rewrite this 20 as, so 20, sorry, oops. So I can rewrite 20 as 4 times 5, and then 4 I can rewrite as 2 times 2. So I'm going to rewrite 20 as 2 times 2 times 5 times A, because I got 2 A's, and then times B times B times B. Now, this 15AB, I'm going to rewrite 15 as 3 times 5. And then just times 1A times B times B times B times B. So I'm going to look at what they have in common. We've got a 5 in common. And we've got 1A in common and 3 B's. Okay, so I know I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep a 5, an A, and 3B, so B cubed. Okay, so now I need to times it by whatever is left over. So on this side, I've got left over 2 times 2, which is 4, and an A. So 4A, oops. So times by 4A. And then on this side, I'm left over with a 3 and a B. So times by 3B. So this right here, this is going to be my LCD. So really quick, I'm just going to do a side example right here. So if I have, sorry, let me think of a good one. If I have, well, let's not do X. If I have 1/5 plus 1 over 25, and this may or may not help. If it doesn't help, ignore it. So in order to add these fractions together, right, I need to get the denominators to be the same. So this one's 25. So I see here that if I times 5 times 25, I'm sorry, if I times this whole thing by 5, then this bottom will be 25. So what I would do here to get these denominators the same is that I would times this fraction by 5 divided by 5, because that then will give me 5 over 25 plus 1 over 25. So now I could add them together. So that's kind of what we're doing, but just with like variables and a little more complicated. So here for the LCD, so because we just want to find the LCD, so we're just worrying about the bottoms right now. So they just rewrote 16x squared y cubed into 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So it might be helpful to see first that 16 equals 4 times 4. And then from there, you can break that into 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And then x squared and y cubed. So I like to write this 2 times 2 times 2. Well, I'm going to run out of room. But I like to write this as x times x, and this is y times y times y. But you can do it either way. It's the same thing. And then 56 over here, what they did is 56 is, it's 8 times 7. So then they said 8 equals 2 times 4 times 7, which then equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 7. So that's where they got these numbers. And then x times, and then again, I would say y times y times y times y times 4 y's. So now I'm looking at what I have in common. I have 3 2's and 3 2's. I have 1x and 1x. And then I have 3 y's and 3 y's. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to write 2 cubed. And then I've got 1x. And then I've got y cubed. And then what I'm doing is I'm looking at what I have left over. So I have 1 2 left over and 1 7 left over. So 2 times 7. And then I've got 1x and 1y. So times x times y. So now I'm running out of room. I'm going to rewrite this up here. So now I can rewrite it. I would do 2 cubed. So that'd be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 7, which gives me 112. And then I've got 1x, 2x. So x squared, and then I've got y cubed times y, so I have 4y, so y to the 4th. So that's my LCD, which is what they have right here. Okay, hopefully this is starting to make a little sense. So let's jump over to, let's come down to this one right here. They don't have a number for it. So we're gonna find the LCD. So again, we're just looking at the bottom for right now. So they just factored these out. Again, if you can't remember, just use the computer. So x squared minus 5x plus 4, you can factor out to x minus 4 times x minus 1. And x squared plus 2x minus 3 is x minus 1, x plus 3. So then I look, I'm going to say, what do I have in common? So I've got in common an x minus 1 and an x minus 1. So I'm going to rewrite that. My LCD is going to have an x minus 1. And then I say, what do I not have in common? And I need to write that. So I have an x minus 4 and an x plus 3. So then I'm going to write those, x minus 4 and an x plus 3. So that's my LCD. Okay, let's jump up here to example 8. So we're just going to factor these again. Remember, I'm just looking at the denominator for right now because they just want the LCD. So x squared plus 6x plus 8, that can be factored into x plus 2 and x minus 4. No, not 4, minus 4 plus 4, sorry. And then x squared minus x minus 20 can be factored into, it's going to be -5 and +4. So I'm going to see, what do I have in common? I've got an x plus 4 and I've got an x plus 4. So I'm going to write that. And then I'm going to write whatever I have left over. So I've got an x plus 2 and an x minus 5. And that's my answer. So basically, I don't know if this is going to help, but basically, as the denominators you're simplifying out, and whatever you have in common, you're basically rewriting both of these times by each other, but if there's something in common, I'm only writing it once. So the x plus 4, like whatever I have in common, I'm still writing, but I'm just writing it down once instead of saying x plus 4 times x plus 4. So hopefully that makes a little sense. Okay, now it's the same type of thing. It gets a little more complicated because now we're just not adding, now we're not just finding the LCD. Now we need to find the LCD and then add or subtract the fractions. So for this first one, okay, so we found the LCD for this up here on example 7. Okay, so we know, if you're confused where they got this LCD, look at the example above. It says it right there, but just look at the example above. Okay, so we know what the LCD is. So now, I need more room. Okay, so this is how I look at it. In fact, you know what? Sorry, I'm trying to think. Okay, we're gonna skip this example for now, but I'll come back to it. Let's go down here to example 11 because I'll have more room to write. So I'm gonna first find the LCD of this. So x squared minus 16, that equals x minus 4, x plus 4. And then x minus 4, I can't simplify it anymore, so I'm just going to write it as x minus 4. So again, I'm going to see, what do they have in common? They have an x minus 4 and an x minus 4. So my LCD is going to be x minus 4. And then what's different? What do they not have? That x plus 4. Okay, so that's going to be my LCD. Okay, so I know that when I subtract these two things, I'm going to have x minus 4, x plus 4 on the bottom of each. Now, okay, so this is where it might get a little complicated. So this is what I want on the bottom of my fraction. But in order to do that, so if I look at this x squared minus 16, I already have x minus 4, x plus 4. So that's already what I want. So I don't need to do anything to it. But this x minus 4 right here, I've only got half of it. I've only got x minus 4. And I need x minus 4 times x plus 4. So for here, right here, for this one, I need to times it by x plus 4 so that I can get this value. So how you're going to look at it is what's different. So this purple, that's what's different. I need to times this one down here by whatever is different. So, and I need to times the whole fraction. So I'm going to look at whatever fraction has the x minus 4, which is this 4 over x minus 4. And now I need to times the whole thing by x plus 4 over x plus 4. Okay, so now when I do that, when I times them together, I'm given this. We'll do it on this side. So I'm given this, so that's perfect on bottom. And now on top, I'm just going to multiply that out. So I have 4x plus 16. And then this fraction can stay the same because I already have that x minus 4, x plus 4. So I don't need to do anything to that. So now I can rewrite this as ax minus 4x minus 16 over this x minus 4, x plus 4. 8x minus 4x gives me 4x minus 16, x minus 4, x plus 4. I'm going to run out of room. So I'm going to show you over here what they did. So I'm right here. I've got 4x minus 16, and then by our least common, divide by our least common denominator. So now on top, I see that I can take a 4 out. So they took a 4 out, and I'm left with x minus 4. And then the same thing on the bottom. So now, so now I see that I can cancel the x minus 4 and the x minus 4 out. So I'm left with 4 over x plus 4. Okay, let's do example 12. So my first step, my denominators aren't the same, so I need to find the LCD. So x squared plus x minus 12, I can factor that to be x plus 4, x minus 3, and then this x squared plus 6x plus 8. I can factor that to be x plus 2, x plus 4. So I see, what do they have in common? They have an x plus 4 and an x plus 4 in common. So my LCD is going to be x plus 4 times by whatever's left over. So on this top one, I see that I have an x minus 3 left over. Okay, so I'm going to write that. But then I also know that I need to times x minus 3 by this bottom one, because this one doesn't have it. Okay, so I'm going to have to times this 2x minus 1 times x minus 3. Okay, now I'm going to see right here, this also is different. So I'm going to write that right there, x plus 2. But now I can see that I also, x plus 2, this one right here doesn't have it. So I need to times this by x plus 2. So it's going to be x plus 1 times x plus 2. And now just on the bottom is going to be my LCD. Minus 3x plus 2. Okay, so now we are just going to multiply this out. So I'm going to do these boxes up here. X plus 1 and x plus 2. So I've got x squared, x, 2x, and 2. So over here, this is going to equal x squared plus 3x plus 2. And this is going to equal, so we got 2x minus 1 and x minus 3. So we're left with 2x squared, negative x, negative 6x, and positive 3. So here I'm left with 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. So now all I need to do is add these together, because that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to have x squared plus 2x squared minus, oops, let me rewrite this. Well, I'm going to combine these as I go. Hopefully it's not confusing. So I have x squared plus 2x squared. So that gives me 3x squared. I'm just adding like terms. Then I've got 3x plus negative 7x. That gives me negative 4x squared. And then, whoops. Why did it? Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I don't know what happened. Let's try this again. Okay, hopefully this will work. So I got negative 4x, and then I've got 2 plus 3, which gives me plus 5. And I'm sorry, this is not an x squared, that's just an x plus 5. X plus 4, x minus 3, and then x plus 2. So I would bet anything if, I don't know off the top of my head how we're factoring that, but if you put it in your calculator, my guess is that it will factor out to cancel one of these to give us a little simpler answer, which is what you're going to want to do. You won't want to leave it like this, but for the sake of time, I'm going to. Okay. Let's do these examples down here and then we'll call it good. So example 13. So first I want to find the LCD. So I'm just looking at the bottom. I'm going to rewrite this one right here so the m's in front. So I have negative, negative m plus 6. So I can see that these two are pretty similar. So this m minus 6, I'm going to keep the same. And then this negative m plus 6, I'm just going to rewrite it. I'm going to take a negative one out so I can make that m positive. So I'm just going to, I'm going to be left with on the inside m minus 6. So now I can see, like, what do I have in common? M minus 6 and m minus 6. So my LCD is going to have an m minus 6. And then what's different is this negative 1. Oops, I want this negative 1. So I know that I need to do times -1 by this top one, is what that means also. So first I'm going to times this by -1. And now I'm going to look at this n-6, and I know I need to times this whole thing by -1. So I'm going to write -1 2m minus 20 divided by our LCD, which is -1 m minus 6 minus 8 negative m plus 6. And this one stays the same, okay? So right here, the thing that was different, I times by here, but there was nothing on this one that this one didn't already have. So hopefully that makes sense. I didn't say that great. So I'm gonna just multiply this -1 in. So I've got -2m minus 20, and I'm gonna rewrite this bottom to just be -m minus 6 plus 6, sorry. Then I've got -8 over -m plus 6. So now I'm just going to subtract the top. So I'm going to have -2m minus 20 minus 8. And then the bottom stays the same. So I can combine this -20 and -8. So it's going to be -2m minus 28 over -m plus 6. Now on the top, I can see that I can take out a -2. So I'm going to be left with, let's see, I should know that, 28 divided by 2, 14. So I'm going to be left with m plus 14, then a -m plus 6. So that should be your answer. Okay, this one up here. So for steps, I'm going to find my LCD. So I'm going to look at x squared minus 9, and I can factor that into x minus 3, x plus 3. And then the second one, x squared minus 4x plus 3. And that can factor into x minus 3, x minus 1. So I'm going to start, maybe this will help if I write it as fractions first. So I'm going to see, what do they have in common? They have an x minus 3 and an x minus 3. So I know my LCD is going to be x minus 3. And then, well, and let me write it here. Okay, and then I'm going to see, what do they have, what's different. So this one has an x plus 3. So first off, for my LCD, it's going to be times x plus 3. But then I also know I've got to times this one by x plus 3. So, which is my second one. So I've got to times 3 times x plus 3. And now I've also got x minus 1 that's different. So I know I'm going to write that for my LCD, but then I've also got to times this one by x minus 1 because it doesn't have that. So times by x minus 1. And then my LCD is just x minus 3 times x plus 3 times x minus 1. And it's the same on both because that's what I just found. I found at least common denominator, so my denominators could be the same. So now I'm going to multiply this out. So I have 2x squared minus 2x. I'm just going to write LCD for right now to save me room. Minus 3x plus 9 over LCD. So now I'm going to be left with 2x squared minus 2x minus 3x minus 9 all over our LCD. I'm going to combine like things. So I've got 2x squared negative 2x minus 3x gives me negative 5x minus 9. And then again, if you were to factor that out, I would bet anything, and I could be wrong, but my guess is maybe one of these would cancel out on bottom. Okay, last one. A little more complicated because I've got 3, but don't let it scare you. So I've got to find my LCD first, okay? I got to get a common denominator between all of them. So I have x minus 5. I'm just going to keep that as x minus 5. I can't reduce that at all. I've got x squared minus 5x. That I can take an x out, so I'm left with x minus 5. And then x, I'm just going to keep that as x. Okay, so do I have anything in common with all of them? No, but like I'm close to it. So I can see that these first two have the x minus 5 in common, okay? So that just means I've got to times this one right here. I've got to times that by x minus 5, okay? And then I can see that this one and this one have an x in common, but this top one doesn't have it. So I've got to just times this by x, okay? So and then my LCD is just going to be this x minus 5 times by x, okay? Because once I times these together, I'm going to have an x minus 5 times by x, x times by x minus 5, x times by x minus 5. So now I'm going to rewrite this. So the 6x minus 5, I'm going to come over here and see that I had to times this by x. So it's going to be 6 times x over just our LCD. I'm going to write that for now. Plus, okay, this second one I'm going to look at. Okay, looks like I didn't have to time that by anything, right? That already had an x and an x plus 5. So that I can just keep the same. Now this last one, it's negative 2 divided by x. I'm going to look down here. It already had an x, and I needed to times it by x minus 5. So I've got times it by x minus 5 over LCD. Okay. Now, I'm just going to rewrite this. But this last time, I'm just going to multiply it out. So minus 2x. And then negative 10 over LCD. Okay, now I'm going to start adding and subtracting. So basically, I'm going to have a big fraction over LCD, which I'm now going to write as x minus 5 times by x. This equals our LCD. So I've got 6x plus x minus 35, and then I've got minus 2x. And remember that this negative has to go here and here. So I kept it there. So I've got negative 2x, and then I've got negative and a negative make a positive, so positive 10. Okay, now I'm going to simplify this, combine like terms. So I've got an x and a negative 2x. So I can combine that together. That gives me negative x. And then I've got, oh, and a 6x. I'm so sorry. And a 6x. So I've got 6x plus x, which gives me 7x, and then minus 2x, so that gives me 5x. And then I've got negative 35 plus 10, which gives me negative 25 over x minus 5 times by x. Now that top, I can see that I can take a 5 out. So I'm going to take a 5 out. So I've got, and then I'm left with x minus 5 over x minus 5 times by x. So now I can see I can cancel out x minus 5, x minus 5. So now I'm just left with 5 over x, which is going to be your answer. So that's a little, this stuff might be a little trickier. So just let me know if you have questions. And yeah, I'd be happy to obviously help you.